I have problems with this. But I think a bad thing is the back road.
No, we don't want anybody. No. All right. Who's excited to be here? Hey. All right. So before we get started, who was here for part one? Who was here for part one? Okay, so we got a couple. So part one is now your part two. So first homework, go to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Dr. Jake Tucker, and find part one. That's pure energy. That was pure energy part one. So no, it was just me and Cheryl. Yep, that was in January. Yeah, I know some of you are here. So yeah, so that is really helpful information for this, but it's not prerequisite. So we're just going to lightly cover some of the stuff that was in there. Yeah, a lot of lifestyle stuff that you guys can do and control. Today's focus, today's topic is more what are the long-term ramifications of living a way that leads to poor metabolic health? And then what can we do to start unraveling that? Also today, we have a new product reveal. Some of you have that on the second sheet behind your note page. Just hold that up for me. And if you need one, raise your hand. We'll get one. All right, Haley needs one. Cheryl in the front row. Anybody else need one? Didn't get a packet? Okay. And do you need a pen as well? Yes. Okay. She's got a pen for you too. So for those products, we're going to go in depth, in detail. But here's the deal. Those supplements, the ones on the front side of the page, the Max Living ones, those are meant not to replace the daily essentials, but they're supposed to be what you take before you take the essentials. So we're going to go into a little bit of that in more detail as we go. It's just a process of making things better, right? If I can save you guys some time, if I can save you guys some money, if I can give you better products, that's what we're going to do. So I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited about a lot of things. But for those of you that are watching online, for those of you that are joining us for the first time, this is our 8.5 year in business. We opened up in 2016 with nobody. And first class was like 3 people sitting up here, and we were just teaching to whoever was willing to come out to teach. And obviously, we've grown quite a bit in the last decade. I came, all the way down from Georgia by way of Michigan, and I mean, the stuff that I'm teaching now, it literally transformed and saved my life. Most of you guys have heard this story, but if anybody's watching online, like the stuff that we're talking about, I mean, metabolic health almost killed me. Poor metabolic health almost killed me. And it's not something that most people realize. It's like the nervous system is so intimately related to this that when I was 2 weeks old, I almost quit breathing because metabolically, I wasn't functioning well enough in my lungs to take a breath. Now, that was specifically because of the subluxation affecting my vagus nerve. But it took 6 months of going in and out of the medical system before I finally ended up in a chiropractor's office who understood the way to clear the nervous system and to give me healthy. Now, and then that turned into 8 years of amazing health and my parents building health for me and all my sisters. And then finances and time became an issue, right? Anybody else have finances and time become an issue in their lives? Yeah, and we stopped going to the chiropractor, we stopped going to the health food store, and what did we start spending instead of time and money on our health? We started spending our health. Yeah, we started losing our health. And fortunately, those first 8 years of my life set me up in a direction where I didn't feel any of those effects for a long time. But I also didn't get adjusted for 20 years. And when it came time to get adjusted, you guys have seen my x-rays. I had lost 50% of my neck curve, 75% of my low back curve. I was on my way to bulging and herniated discs. And because I found Max Living, they actually helped set me up to where now I have 90% of my curve back, even though I had spent 28 years taking more. And so nobody here is too far gone. You know, I have patients all the time ask me, oh, am I too old to correct my scoliosis? Am I too old to get the curve back in my neck? And the answer is no. The answer is no. There's somebody in this office that's at least 10 years older than any one of you that has gotten 10 degrees of improvement on one curve or the other. And I say that after 10 years of experience. I'm not the only one experiencing this thing. Obviously, Cheryl's going to teach a little bit this morning. Cheryl found us one morning waking up saying to me, if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired on the radio. Some of you have heard me on the radio. It's been a while since I had a radio show. And we've been through a journey together. Cheryl's been in nursing for almost 4 decades now, the last 2 of which she's been spending teaching pretty much all things nursing. Yeah. So a lot of the stuff that we're covering today, as far as the pathophysiology of different disease processes, that's right in her wheelhouse of things that she's teaching almost on a daily basis. Now she tutors when she's not here with me, when she was busy. When she's in the office helping young nursing students get back into it. And of course, this is her training. So yeah, our goal tonight is to spend less than 90 minutes. But this is probably about how many weeks of classes of material? It's a semester.
Yeah, it's the neuro system alone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot. So we're going to dive as deep as we can, but if you could, try to save your questions for the end. So if anybody does need to leave, at least they have the chance to get through all the content. Okay? Fair deal? Let's go. All right, so here's the deal. 90% of people who struggle to lose weight have an imbalance in metabolism. That makes sense, right? If you're struggling to lose weight, your metabolism is at its root. What does that mean? Well, part of the problem is obesity continues to rise. When I first started doing this, over a decade ago, I was teaching that, it was just over 30% of Americans that were struggling with obesity. And when we added in all the metabolically unhealthy people that were overweight, we had almost 75% of Americans. Where's that number now? Obesity has climbed over 40%. And you combine that with overweight people, we're 88% of Americans are dealing with obesity or being overweight. And so it's really a huge issue. And then you look at things like COVID, right? COVID attacked a lot of people in their cardiovascular system and the respiratory system. And the things that set you up for most failure for COVID were unfortunately obesity, cardiovascular disease, and then a lot of things that we're going to cover here. If you have pre-existing conditions, they're going to set you up for failure. And then 88% of Americans are suffering from metabolic disease. That's not just metabolic dysfunction, actual diagnosable disease, and don't even know it yet. And so our goal today is to help you cover some of that. So I'm going to hand it over. Let Cheryl run with it.
So as you can see, all of these diseases have something to do with your metabolism. And I'm going to actually break these down a lot more as I kind of grouped them together. But as you can see, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart disease, obesity, diabetes. And one thing I was going to say a minute ago when Dr. Jake was talking about the rise in overweight and obesity is that back when I went to nursing school, it was type 1 diabetes didn't exist. It was juvenile onset diabetes and it was adult onset diabetes. Okay. That was because the only people that got juvenile diabetes were under 17, and the only people that got adult onset diabetes were those who were over 20. Well, because We've got more overweight and obese young people. Now we have to rename juvenile onset diabetes to diabetes type 2 because no longer some of those 12, 13-year-olds, because of their overweight and obesity, now have diabetes because of sedentary lifestyle, eating habits, and some of those things we'll talk about. Okay. Autoimmune diseases, thyroid dysfunction, polycystic ovarian syndrome, infertility, Cushing's. Addison's isn't on this list, but Addison's disease needs to be on this list. Cancer, fatty liver, arthritis, and then chronic pain. So, metabolic syndrome, some of you may have heard about metabolic syndrome. Again, even 20 years ago, 15 years ago, we didn't even talk about what is metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome, and the word syndrome comes from the Greek meaning things that run together. So metabolic syndrome, these are all conditions of the metabolic system, of metabolism, that tend to run together. So if you have one, i.e. high triglycerides, you're very likely to have a low HDL. Again, HDL is your high density lipoproteins, or your happy density, happy cholesterol. That's the one we want high because it will actually grab a hold of that lousy cholesterol and help get rid of it out of your system. So we want a high HDL and we want a low LDL or lousy cholesterol. Visceral obesity, that means extra weight packed around the waistband. Okay? Insulin resistance, so not necessarily, maybe it's not to the point of being diagnosed with diabetes yet, but it's insulin resistant. What that means is my pancreas is making insulin and my cells are not taking it in. So the way I like to talk about diabetes or about insulin is your cell has little receptors on it, like locks to the front door to get into, for the sugar to get into the cell. And the insulin is the key, unlocks the front door so that the sugar can get in. Okay. Insulin resistance means the lock has gotten rusty and the key doesn't work anymore. Okay. That's kind of what insulin resistance is. After a while, what happens? Your pancreas quits making the insulin because it sees that your body isn't using it anymore. That's insulin resistance. And then hypertension or high blood pressure. Okay. So if any of you, just another example of this, if anybody is diagnosed with type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetes, besides starting you on a medication for diabetes, like your doctors are wanting to do, they're also going to automatically start you on something to lower your cholesterol, even if your cholesterol is already okay, because they know it's correlated and they don't want to take a chance of getting a high cholesterol. So they'll start you on statin medication. Okay. They're going to monitor your blood pressure really closely. They may not start you on a blood pressure med, but they're going to watch it close and be really anxious to get you started on that. And then, of course, losing weight to try to help get that down. Or now, and Dr. Jake will talk more about the Manjaro, the glipizides, the semaglutides, those things. He'll talk more about those later. But that's another step that they have now over the last 3 or 4 years to help reduce obesity, to help increase decrease insulin resistance. So that's metabolic syndrome. I think you took a slide out of here that I was looking for. Yes, okay. Anyway, it said, what is metabolism?
It's under that.
It's underneath this?
Yes.
Okay. As in, it,
Yes.
okay. So what is metabolism? Metabolism is the way that your body has to work to break down the carbohydrates, the proteins, and the fats that you take in your mouth. Okay. If we talk about the 5 essentials, we know nutrition is essential. We have to take those nutrients in fat, proteins, and carbohydrates. Our body has to break those down. It starts at your lips. Kind of with the chewing, with the saliva, it starts breaking down the fats, the proteins, and the carbohydrates. And your body, through the whole GI tract, will start breaking those down, turn them into usable forms of product so that it can distribute it appropriately. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about metabolism. How does my body break down, again, the fats, the carbohydrates, and the proteins? Okay, so we talked about metabolic disease. You can see how those can be caused by improper breakdown of fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. Okay, this one, heart disease, primarily coronary artery disease, but coronary artery disease can lead to a lot of these others. Coronary artery disease, you can see it's labeled fat deposits. Bad cholesterol, that LDL, and your triglycerides, if they're too high, can build up inside those arteries, cause coronary artery disease, narrows the hose that blood's supposed to be going through. Okay, again, if you take a garden hose and you turn it on, it's going to run at a certain power. If you put your thumb over it, what happens to the pressure that comes out? Goes up, right? Because we're forcing the same amount of water through a smaller hose. Hypertension. That's what this is going to lead to. It could lead to an aneurysm. An aneurysm is a blood vessel that has weakened and ballooned up and gotten swollen. The walls have gotten thin, and it could rupture. Most people, a thoracic aortic aneurysm, which is what this is, it's behind your heart, your chest. If that ruptures, what happens? You die, unless you happen to be in a hospital and they're already prepped and waiting for this thing to rupture. Okay. Same thing if it's down lower in your abdomen and in your brain. Okay. Do we know we have aneurysms? Typically not. Most of the time they're found accidentally. Hypertension, some of you have probably heard hypertension is called the silent killer. Why is that? Perfect. No signs and symptoms until you have the heart attack or the ruptured aneurysm or the stroke. Okay, silent killer. And do we go to the doctor? We don't need to. Most of us not. Okay, so we don't know that our blood pressure is high, which is okay as long as we're doing those other things: the diet, the exercise, the chiropractics, the toxic, eliminating or reducing toxins, and then the mindset. Okay. Autoimmune diseases. What is an autoimmune disease? It's a disease where your immune system is fighting your body. And we don't always know. Often we don't know why it happens. But we know that your immune system has gone haywire and is building up a response to itself. Our immune system is very good when it works correctly. So our immune system helps us, gets us well if we get infected by bacteria. It's supposed to vasodilate, brings more red blood cells, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of things our immune system does right. But when it goes haywire, which is what's going on here, we can get, I don't know if you can read, Graves' disease, Hashimoto's thyroiditis. That is hyperthyroidism. Thyroid's working too well. And what is the thyroid responsible for? Metabolism. It helps regulate how I use up my calories. It helps regulate my body temperature, a bunch of things of how I have my metabolism. Vitiligo, that's where my skin pigmentation goes away. More prominent in people with darker skin because you've got these white patches and you've got the darker patches. Lupus, also called systemic lupus erythematosus, is a systemic autoimmune disease. We usually think of it as the butterfly rash, is one of the telltale signs of it, but it affects the kidneys, it affects the joints, it affects the heart, it affects all of those organs as well. Sjogren's syndrome, psoriasis, rheumatoid. Sure, everybody's heard of rheumatoid arthritis. Again, another autoimmune disease causes destruction, typically of the joints, but it can cause destruction of other areas too. Multiple sclerosis, here's your type 1 diabetes. Again, is considered an autoimmune disease because the body attacks the pancreas, or specifically the cells in the pancreas that make insulin, and the body can no longer make insulin. Different types of anemia. Anemia meaning we don't have enough red blood cells to carry oxygen. Celiac disease. What's celiac? They don't tolerate gluten. Okay. Gluten is something that our body has to metabolize. Yeah. Addison's disease, I think I was talking about that earlier on that other one. Addison's disease has to do with the adrenal glands. The adrenal glands sit on top of your kidneys and they make cortisol. Some of you have probably sometimes used a steroid, prednisone, or cortisol, or know somebody who has. That's what the adrenal glands make. Okay. Not enough cortisol leads to Addison's disease. Too much cortisol leads to Cushing's disease. Again, if our body's not metabolizing what it has correctly, our adrenal glands are getting incorrect signals about what they're supposed to be making and how much they're supposed to be making. This says Guillain-Barré, myasthenia gravis, inflammatory bowel diseases, so Crohn's and ulcerative colitis. Again, autoimmune diseases that affect the gut. And where does a lot of our metabolism happen? Gut. Okay. So again, those are disease processes that certainly are going to affect metabolism. They're going to affect not necessarily what I take in, but how is it processed? What gets passed through to the other end. Okay. Polycystic ovarian syndrome. Sounds kind of odd that it is considered a metabolic disease, but again, ovarian dysfunction for whatever reason leads to insulin resistance, which we've already talked about what insulin resistance is. Dyslipidemia, basically that means I've got too much bad fats, not enough of good fats. Central adiposity, it's a big word for saying I got too much fat around my belly. Poor diet, sedentary behavior, stress can all lead to the way our body functions. Stress releases cortisol. Remember, going back to the adrenal glands, that cortisol is secreted when stress situations. The more stress, the higher the blood sugar. It's a vicious circle. Okay. Cardiovascular disease can be a result of polycystic type 2 diabetes. Again, if the insulin resistance continues, can lead to endometrial cancer. Hirsutism is hair in places on your body it should not to be for your gender. So again, polycystic ovarian is a female disorder. So women have chin hair, women have chest hair. That's hirsutism. Acne, alopecia means I'm losing my hair or I don't have any hair. And then again, obesity. So those are some of the things. Oh, hormone imbalance. Your LH to FSH ratio is off. That means luteinizing hormone to follicle stimulating hormone. Those are the two hormones that help regulate ovulation. FSH, follicle stimulating hormone is decreased. Therefore, this female does not produce enough eggs or doesn't release the eggs. And hyperandrogenism. Women secrete a little bit of testosterone, and this one they're secreting too much testosterone. Leads to some of these symptoms there, as well as the poor diet, the dyslipidemia. Cancer. So cancer is a metabolic disease. And this is relatively new. I would say maybe the last 10 to 15 years, we've started thinking of some cancers as being metabolic diseases as well.
So I just wanted to break down real quick because I know a lot of you have questions about how does this form. It really has to do with environment. Really, all of this as we're going through this is like, metabolism breaks first, and then you get these diseases, not the other way around. And so when we look at a cancer cell, it thrives when it doesn't have oxygen for fuel. So how do we get oxygen in our system? Breathing, but how, like really to get it into every cell in the body, what do we have to do to get oxygen? Exercise, right? If we are not exercising, you cannot get the blood or the oxygen from the blood to all the cells in the body. You have a genetic requirement for exercise. And that's why, this, exercise crisis in the United States, it's a major issue. It uses sugar for fuel almost exclusively, really 100% exclusively. It wants sugar. And it's part of it is because it's broken. Third, it has a very inflammatory environment. In fact, this is a response to an constantly inflammatory environment. Fourth, it doesn't need proper nerve supply. In fact, you can cut a cancer cell off from the nervous system, and it'll grow faster. Yeah, if you cut the nerves to a tumor cell, it will grow exponentially. So this is huge. And then lastly here, it has an acidic or highly alkaline environment. So, and then this is, so part of the way that it uses glucose. So glucose is sugar, right? So unfortunately, it takes one glucose molecule to make two ATP. Two ATP, that's energy cells essentially. So in a healthy cell, it's one glucose makes 38 ATP, right? So a healthy cell, it uses oxygen for fuel, loves oxygen. That's what keeps it out of the lactic acid cycle where it only produces 2 ATP. Two, it doesn't need sugar for fuel. In fact, without sugar, sugar is not a nutritional requirement at all. It will use ketones, which are made up of fat, like either dietary fat or body fat. And it'll convert one ketone to 22 ATP, so much more efficient than being stuck in the lactic acid cycle. Third, it thrives with or without inflammation. A healthy cell can deal with inflammation, but it really does well, even better, without inflammation. Fourth, it needs proper nerve supply. A cell cannot be healthy without nerve supply. Most healthy cells, you cut the nerve off, the cell dies. Cancer cells go the other way. And then fifth, it has a slightly alkaline pH. And so we want to be just there, I think it's 7.1.
7.35 to 7.45 is normal.
Yeah, there you go. I knew somebody had that.
So slightly alkaline would be about 7.5.
Yeah, so that's right where we want to be with those healthy cells. And so keeping it there means that you can take one glucose and turn it into 38 ATP, which means your body doesn't even need as much sugar to turn it into energy. But where you have cancer cells, they're going to be converting at a really low rate, so you're going to be burning food. And so we want that. We also want to be able to go into ketosis, in and out of ketosis regularly, in order to feed those healthy cells and kill off the cancer cells. Because guess what? Look to your left, look to your right. Both sides of you, those people have cancer in their body right now. All of us have cancer cells. The health of our immune system and these environments that we create are what determine whether cancer is going to grow and propagate or shrink and die. That's it. That's what it comes down to. So when we're looking at cancer, those are the factors.
Okay. So, more metabolic, fatty liver. And it doesn't have to be, we used to call it an alcoholic steatosis, which means liver disease related to alcoholism. We now have non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, which means non-alcoholic fatty liver. So fatty liver disease causes in the liver can arise from the following. So hyperlipidemia. Again, if I have a high cholesterol, more of that fat's going to settle around my liver. If I'm obese, again, we talked about the relationship to obesity and diabetes, and then inherited hyperlipidemia. There used to be a commercial that was really kind of humorous, and it was for some cholesterol med. It wasn't a statin, but they said that cholesterol comes in two forms. It can come from your family, or it can come from the food that you eat. So it can come from Aunt Millie, or it can come from the blueberry muffins that Aunt Millie makes, or something to that effect. So it can either be the food that you eat, or your genetics, or a combination of both. The gist of that commercial was take our product because it will help with both types of cholesterol. So what happens with the fatty liver, again, fat forms around the liver. It's going to prevent the liver from getting what it needs to function. It leads to starvation of the liver, chronic illnesses. So everybody's probably heard of hepatitis. It's an inflammation of the liver. Alcohol, again, is the most common way to get fatty liver, because people who drink their meals tend to not get enough of the nutrients that are required, and they may have a lot of calories in the alcohol or in the stuff that they mix their alcohol in. Protein calorie malnutrition, active fatty liver disease in late pregnancy, Rye syndrome. Rye syndrome is actually a disease process that we see most commonly in children, and it's related to aspirin use. So we don't use it, that's why we no longer have baby aspirin. It's called low dose aspirin, because we don't want to use it in kids because it can cause Rye syndrome. Hepatotoxins, anything that can cause toxicity to the liver, and then drug-induced cell liver injury. Your liver is responsible for metabolism of every pill you put in your mouth. Okay. So if you're putting too many pills in, it can be toxic to your liver, and then your liver can't do all the things that the liver's doing. There are hundreds of functions of the liver, and just 2 or 3 of those functions that it can't do is going to cause your metabolism to go wonky. Okay, that's the official medical term. Arthritis, of course. Long time, forever, I've been teaching that gout is a metabolic arthritis, because my body can't metabolize the uric acid correctly that comes from the proteins and break down proteins. More recently, we're finding metabolic syndrome and components of metabolic syndrome are actually making osteoarthritis worse. Osteoarthritis, we used to think of as the wear and tear disease. That's the old people arthritis. It's different from rheumatoid. Rheumatoid is an inflammatory disorder, again, related to the metabolic system. But we used to think, and I think I'll get onto that in the next slide, but obesity, if I put more weight on my joints, they're going to wear out faster. Hypertension, again, my osteocytes, which are my bone cells, are not getting, they're breaking down too quickly. They're not getting enough oxygen. Again, elevated blood sugars can lead to an increase in that inflammation of the knee, dyslipidemia, your high cholesterols, to all of those products that, again, leads to that inflammation. That's a nasty, sore-looking knee there. But what we thought we knew about osteoarthritis, like I said, wear and tear, cumulative, so old age, the more I use that joint, repetitive injuries, and then an injury. So that's what we used to think caused osteoarthritis. What we're learning, it has a lot more to do with metabolic syndrome, which I talked about at the beginning, lipid abnormalities, obesity-related inflammation, increased weight, wear and tear, injury, cumulative force, and an increased uric acid. So there's a whole lot more going on with osteoarthritis. Okay.
All right. So enough about that. Right. So what causes this? Right. Well, we said it for metabolism, but when we're going to have healthy metabolism, we got to understand that there's three main things: food, digestion, and energy. You have to have these going. And so obviously, at its core is healthy food. Preparing for this class, I happened on a couple of podcasts that hosted Gary Brecka. I don't know if you guys have heard the name before, but he actually got his start at National College of Chiropractic and then figured out that wasn't his calling. And so he went in, he became an actuary for a life insurance company. Now, do life insurance companies lose money or make money? They make money. There's never been a financial crisis where the life insurance companies couldn't pay. They know their math. And actually, he was part of a system that could predict a patient's death down to the month. Right? Now, they're not, that science is actually like, it's heavily legally protected. So you can't come out and just say like, oh yeah, so, Joan, you're going to die on this day at this month. Yeah, and it's still averages, right? A truck can come by and you can't predict that with, science. However, he got fed up because, he was seeing these people and he'd seeing their medical records and they would continue to monitor them as they went, just in case they needed to change things. They went and he had this one patient customer of the life insurance company. He got her medical records and she had this predisposition based off of all of these medications that she was on, that she was more likely to have a stroke. And they gave her a medication, her doctor gave her a medication that was more likely to interact with that to cause a stroke. And so he went to his bosses, he said, we have to tell her she's going to have a stroke. They said, if you do, we'll sue you. You're fired and you're sued. And so that's when he turned in his 2 weeks notice and he left. And so he ended up starting his own company and he's doing a lot of stuff. But basically he said, let's stop blaming the organ for the lifestyle problem, right? And really stop blaming the organ for a nutritional deficiency is what it came down to. And so when it comes to our food supply, 50 years ago, I might have said, you don't need to take a pill, you don't need to take a vitamin, just get a balanced whole food diet in your food. What's happened to our soil? What's happened to the nutrients in our food? Man, unless you're growing your own heirloom vegetables in your own garden, you're probably looking at about a 70% decrease in nutrients just across the board. And so we have to make sure that we're getting the right things. So standard American diet is specifically unfortunately, some of you guys have been here when this video has been playing, but there's this research study put out by the NIH, of all people, funded by the United States government, where they did a really short-term study, and their conclusion of the study is you can get just as many nutrients from highly processed foods, and it's just as healthy as a whole food diet. Of course, really great science there, right? Let's really limit this and get, who's really behind the funding? Big food, right? And it's really high in 3 things that really screw up your metabolism. Number 1 is fat, and not just fats of all kinds, but specifically highly inflammatory fats. Sugars, right? How do we get most of our sugars? Well, it's the 3rd category here, ultra-processed foods. And ultra-processed foods, they are foods that you cannot make in your own kitchen. Just to be clear, if you are making everything in your kitchen, you are not eating the standard American diet. Now, if you're making your own frozen meal in your own kitchen, you are already getting a standard American diet. That's a ultra-processed because you can't get that in your kitchen. So we're going to try to get away from that. So quality matters here. And really, if your budget allows, first step, get off of anything ultra-processed. You're going to save money doing that. If you cut out the ultra-processed junk, just look at the cost of chicken. You're spending $10 on a single person on junk, right? You go home and you make your own pasta and pasta sauce. You're spending like $1 per serving for that, right? So that's save some money that way. Second step, start cleaning it up. Get that organic, regeneratively, homemade, homegrown, that stuff. That'll get you so much better. And we have to realize a calorie is not just a calorie. Calories in does not equal calories out when it comes to our health and our metabolic health specifically. We have to get right behind the calories. So that begs the question, which calories do we want to get? So let's break this down. We're going to go top to bottom here. A lot of you that have been to classes before know this. I've said this before. We have to curb our carbohydrates. Why? Well, our bodies genetically are used to consuming this much sugar in 2 years. That pile right there is the amount of sugar that you would consume in 1 year if you've cut out soda completely. And you just eat like everybody else does. That's 260 pounds of sugar. So yes, cutting out soda is important. That takes off about 100 pounds, right? But we really need to aim for this. What does doing this do for our bodies? It regularly puts us in and out of ketosis. I don't want you all on a ketogenic diet, but I want you healthy enough that you can go into ketosis and out of ketosis. Anybody ever have your blood sugar just plummet? You get all shaky and like you want to faint? I'm not going to look at anybody. That's because you're not able to go in and out of ketosis. So we have to train our bodies to be able to get there. If your sugar plummets, a healthy metabolic response is ketones to start coming out. Your body to start breaking down the fat cells in your body, making ketones, you start using this. So that's really key. That wouldn't have been the most important thing had we not added sugar to all these hyper-processed foods. But because that's where we are, this is probably the number 1 step that everybody in this room needs to make it. Number 2, we want to fix our fats. So what does that mean? It means going from inflammatory fats to non-inflammatory fats, from processed fats to unprocessed fats. So what's an example of an unprocessed fat? Olive oil. Another one. Avocado oil. Coconut? Yeah, coconut's a great one. And the common theme here is if you squeeze it and your fat comes away greasy, your hand comes away greasy, the whole food, right? The whole food. Obviously, if you stick your hand in olive oil, it's going to come away greasy, right? But if you squeeze an olive, it's not just olive juice that's coming up. Whereas if you squeeze corn or carrots or soybeans, your hand's not coming away as greasy, is it? No. And so these other oils are like worse. Let's talk about inflammatory. What's an example of an inflammatory? Canola. So canola comes from a seed called rapeseed. If you stepped on a rapeseed, would you get oil out of a rapeseed? No, you'd get a hole in your shoe because it's so hard to get to that seed. They have to strip away all the fiber and everything else. There's nothing wrong with rapeseed. It's just not really a food product. It's a seed, right? You're going to have a lot of trouble breaking that down. I suppose if you soak it in water long enough, it might sprout and then it'll become more nutritionally available, but it's a lot of work to get oil out of it. So there's this whole industrial process where they strip everything away and you're left with the oil, but the oil's so gummy that they have to add hexanes to it. That hexane, it's carcinogenic and highly inflammatory. So then to wash that away, they put bleach in there so you don't taste the hexane anymore. And bleach is good for your brains. You guys know this, that fresh, clean smell in bathrooms. It's so good for you neurologically. It creates so much inflammation. And then from there, now you can put it in a plastic bottle that's not dark colored at all. So the light and the heat, everything just continues breaking it down. So by the time you put it in your pocket, it's highly inflammatory. So that one, vegetable oils, corn oil. Where's cottonseed oil? Is cotton a food product? That's not regulated as a food product. They use pesticides on there that you can't get in your food supply, even in the United States. But because it's allowed, it has more pesticides on it than most other. So we want to move to the healthy fats. So can we hold the questions to the end?
I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
don't they put that
Yeah, that's in movie theaters. You go to movie theaters and get popcorn, you're getting your cottonseed. So we want to fix our fats. How much fat do you need? Well, your body is, or your nervous system specifically, is over 50% fat. So if you want a healthy nervous system, how much of your diet should be fat? Probably about 50%. Some people need a little bit more, some people need a little bit less. That's where we start customizing this. Perfected proteins. So here's the thing. So we're going to get into peptides in a minute. The cool thing about proteins, if you eat a high protein diet, you grow your own peptides. You don't need to spend hundreds of dollars on peptides in order to get the effects of Ozempic or Mounjaro or any of these other semaglutides. But so many of us eat bad sources of protein. I've already listed a couple. I'm not going to throw them under the bus again. But if we eat like the average American eats, then we create inflammation like the average American creates inflammation, and we end up with poor metabolism the way the average American eats poor metabolism. And so let's say we just have, the cheap, $2 chuck from the grocery store. Pretty affordable to do it that way, right? But that cow was fed with what? Corn. Did God create cows to eat corn? Were they sitting in a pasture full of corn? No. God created them to eat grass. They have 3 stomachs, so they can break down grass into whole food nutrition, and it turns into this, very, very rich source of all the essential amino acids, B vitamins, you name the nutrient, it's probably in grass-fed beef. It's a superfood, really, when you think about it. But we're eating this corn-fed beef. So let's just break it down into omega-3s and omega-6s. Both forms, grass-fed and corn-fed, have omega-6s and omega-3s. Our bodies need omega-6s and omega-3s. But the ratio of omega-6s to omega-3s in a healthy human body should be somewhere between 1-to-1 and 4-to-1. Any guesses as to where the average American is with that ratio? So you might be right, depending on the human we're looking at, but 17-to-1. Some people are as high as 32-to-1. And it comes down to the source of the proteins that we're getting. So let's say we eat a lot of almonds. Almonds are a great source of protein. They're very healthy. They're very rich in omega-6s, not very high in omega-3s. You can give yourself the same inflammation just from eating all almonds all the time. You can give yourself the toxicity just by getting that same almond source. I'm not saying almonds are bad. I'm just saying if all you get is that omega-6 source, you're going to have the same problem as corn-fed beef. And so we need to balance it out. So grass-fed beef is somewhere between 1-to-1 and 4-to-1. So basically the perfect protein for humans. So we want to make sure that we're getting that right source of it. So what are some vegetarian sources? We can get chia seeds. We can get flax seeds. There's certain forms of like seaweed that have omega-6s in there. So you don't even have to go, animal eating if you tend to want to be vegan. You just know where you're getting those things. Next, we have to trash our toxins. So who was I just talking to? I don't know if you're even here, but we were talking about RFK was in a speech. He was saying that there's about 3,000 different. Yeah, Joan was saying RFK was talking. He's like, there's 3,000 approved chemicals in the American food supply. Europe only has 300. Yeah, and that's not the first time I've heard that stat. I'm just using you as an example. You're paying attention to the right stuff. Why is Europe not approving this many things? Well, it's because their standards for food are high. They take an approach that it's considered dangerous until it's proven safe. Novel, right? When you come out with a chemical, let's just assume that it's dangerous until it's proven safe. America, on the other hand, it's assumed safe until it's dangerous. Does that sound like a lawsuit waiting to happen? Yeah, and that's the approach that we take with a lot of things, unfortunately. So we need to trash our toxins. One of the best ways to do that, number one, grow your own food. Right? If you're getting foods in season, you're going to avoid a lot of the pesticides. If you're growing your own food, you know what pesticides are. Going to a farmer's market is a good way to get foods in season because they're only bringing in foods that were grown in season. Going organic helps reduce that load because now you're not getting synthetic pesticides, you're only getting organic pesticides, so food-based pesticides, which can still be toxic, but not at nearly the same levels. But if you get it regeneratively grown, oftentimes what you find is it didn't need any pesticides in the first place. So that's a little harder to find. So trash or toxin, and this is where we get really specific as to each of you guys as individuals, and that's avoid your allergens and food sensitivities. So if you're sensitive to beef, like my daughter is, grass-fed beef is not a perfect superfood. If you're sensitive to eggs, like my wife is, eating an egg, even if it's pasture-raised, pecking at bugs, and getting other sources of protein, it's not a superfood for her. For most of us, those things are. So this is where we have to get super specific. A lot of us have peanut allergies because it's in a lot of things that we put directly into the bloodstream. Food sensitivities are a little harder to identify because it's a stress response of our immune system to those foods. It's likely a consequence of leaky gut, which that standard American diet that has so much sugar and so many pesticides really breaks down and creates. So where does that leave us? That leads us with the pure energy bundle. So I talked at the beginning about how we're constantly changing, constantly challenging, constantly improving. And so this is Max Living's new line of health. And so this is called the Foundational 3. So we have the daily essentials, right? So everybody should be on the daily essentials at this point because it's what everybody needs. But what we've found is that there's certain nutrients that help us get to the point where the daily essentials really helps to support us without going beyond that. So we're gonna break these down, but before I break them down, let's go through some of the things that all of them have. So number one, there's 20 clinically studied ingredients in their clinically studied doses. So this is crazy, right? So ashwagandha, we're gonna go through ashwagandha in a minute. So some of you guys know it's a powerful adaptogen, meaning that it'll change to whatever you need to use it for. Really incredible thing. And there's studies out there that show it does some really incredible things for like brain health and longevity. However, if you were to go out, and there was a shortage of ashwagandha a few years ago because everybody was reading these studies and like, I want ashwagandha. But if you were to go out and you were to buy an ashwagandha supplement from the store, it could be a health food store or otherwise, there's a 99% chance that it didn't get to the clinically studied dose. It wasn't high enough to get to the effects that the study studied it for. And so all of these 20 clinically studied ingredients that we've added brand new from the daily essentials are at those doses. So when you're looking at these things, yeah, you're not just getting what it says it has in it, which is another thing about buying supplements other places. But it also has the clinically studied levels, and in some cases even more, because we understand that more is better in some cases. And then the other thing here is it's using kingdom ingredients. So you guys have, I've said in the past, whole food nutrition, we want, nutrients and especially supplements from whole food sources. Well, kingdom ingredients means now we're going just beyond whole foods and we're starting to branch off. We're getting into the bacterial world, right? The bacteria kingdom. We're getting into the botanical world. We're getting into the animal kingdom, and we're starting to bring all these things together synergistically. So now your supplements work better, right? That's what we're looking for, is synergy within the supplements. So number one, and this is one that I wish I had for every single one of you when you started with care under me. You know, I for many of you, I handed you a sheet. I said, this is your joint health protocol. It's got your curcumin in it. It's got your collagen in it. It's got all these different nutrients that help to rebuild the joints. And you should be on this if you want your joints to rebuild to the point where we want them to be, so you can have and protect a healthy functioning nervous system. And most of you got that stuff, and you got on it, and you trusted me, and it was right. But now we know better, and this is better, right? So you're going to see a lot of familiar things here. So the big things that are in this: organic vitamin A, that's supporting the immune system. Organic vitamin D3. I've talked about vitamin D3 in the past. I don't need to go deeper into this, but let me just say this. So one of the things that Gary Brecker was saying in these podcasts I was listening to is he was saying one of the misdiagnosed conditions for especially African Americans was a condition called rheumatoid arthritis. And so what would happen is because African Americans, they have more melanin in their skin, it blocks out more sunlight. And so when you block out more sunlight, what can't your body do to the sunshine rays that are hitting your skin when you go outside? It can't create vitamin D3 or cholecalciferol. And so one of the main side effects of a vitamin D3 deficiency? Pain all over the body, hitting equally left and right side, which is also one of the main symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis. And so around the age of 30, 35, 40, they were going to their doctors and they were getting misdiagnosed as rheumatoid arthritis without getting a vitamin D3 test done whatsoever, because that's considered by the insurance companies, which as non-essential for testing. So they're getting misdiagnosed as a rheumatoid patient when they're vitamin D3 deficient. And so when you start taking low-dose corticosteroids, which is one of the most common treatments for rheumatoid arthritis, what does that eventually do to your joints? It makes you feel better for a little while, even if it's vitamin D3 deficiency. What does it do to your joints? It's like a cheese grater. It wears them out. And so this is where he could predict down to the month someone's mortality and when they would die. And so you would go from that low dose corticosteroid to a knee replacement or a hip replacement to a lack of mobility, and that lack of mobility would eventually lead to a hip fracture. And that hip fracture is one of the strongest correlations that we have for knowing the timeline on that. And so he could take it back all the way to that first corticosteroid prescription. And so, yeah, he was literally predicting based off of people's first medication that they were getting that they would have to take long term, how they were going to live, and then how they were going to die. So D3 is really important, and you can see all the things it's responsible for. Vitamin K2, of course, helps to open channels back and forth for vitamin D3, bone health, even immune system health, skeletal calcium optimization, hydrolyzed eggshell membrane collagen. So everybody knows that collagen is really good for your skin, your hair, your nails, your joints, your bones. It's really important connective material. Well, there's 9 different types. This type has all 9. Most do not have that. What else has it? Well, our Pure Path collagen does have that in there, but how much are you spending on just a bottle of that? I don't remember the price off it, but probably 50, 60, 70, something like that, right? So yeah, it's not cheap. So you're getting that in here. Yeah, we're gonna combine it. We're gonna save you guys some money. Boswellia supports healthy inflammation in the gut. And then this one. So everybody knows ginger is good for your stomach and your digestion, right? Right. So if we ferment it and it's organic, how much better is that? Yeah, right. So we're putting these things together that work really well to help deal with inflammation, not just in your joints, but also in your digestive system, your immune system, and support all those things together. Now, this is actually, it has enough turmeric and curcumin and all that stuff in it that it can replace those supplements. However, I don't want you guys to get the wrong feeling on this. This is not like a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. Anybody here ever had me go, when you said like, oh, I'm taking Tylenol for this, that, or the other. That's because it's eating your liver. I don't want you to eat your liver, right? I want you to have a liver. You know, you need a liver in order to be healthy. And the other thing that these NSAIDs do is they block natural inflammation. And when you block natural inflammation, what is inflammation there for in the first place? Healing, exactly. So when you're blocking inflammation with a Tylenol, you're blocking healing from happening. And so this is not designed, none of this is designed to block healing. It's actually designed to help regulate proper inflammation. And so if you take this when your elbow hurts, your elbow may still hurt, but guess what? You know that the inflammation that you're getting is the proper amount, right? If it's in your knee, if it's in your hip, if it's in your digestive system, it may still hurt, but you know that it's the proper level of inflammation that's happening. And it probably will decrease the inflammation level overall, because so many of us have these essentially autoimmune responses because of that inflammation that's happening in our gut, this poor metabolic. Secondly, cellular health and longevity. Is it possible to have a healthy body without healthy cells? Anybody? No? Nobody's Superman here? Okay, good. Good. So this formula here is designed to optimize these things, right? So there's 9 specific ingredients here. PQQ is the big brother for something called CoQ10. Anybody hear of CoQ10? Antioxidants, super powerful, great for heart health. You want to go above and beyond that, go PQQ. Right. Next, melon extract. We have a few things. Ashwagandha. I said ashwagandha. Yeah, so we're getting not just some ashwagandha. We're getting the exact clinical dose that you guys need to have the responses for longevity and brain health and anti-anxiety and depression. That's it. Rhodiola, grains of paradise, methylated B vitamins. Okay, anybody here like caffeinated coffee? Have one in the morning? Okay, anybody like caffeinated tea? Yeah, okay, keep your hand up if you like either coffee or tea in the morning. You guys are B vitamin deficient. Yep. Caffeine inhibits the absorption of B vitamins. Yes, unfortunately, right? I've got my big pot of coffee in the back to prove it. Right? So I need this. So why is it methylated? So it can absorb better. When you methylate it, it makes it so that it can attach into your system in the places that it's supposed to attach to. Now, one of the worst things that you can do, and this is going back to the Gary Breckett thing, so look him up, watch some of his videos. He's got some really cool stuff that he's doing. But he talks about how, you know, anxiety, depression, addiction, these things are not just bad habits or things that we've done wrong as far as like just being broken, right? These are not genetic things that we're doing wrong. What he's saying is that these things are actually getting synthetic forms of B vitamins that block the production of neurotransmitters. And so if you get a cyanocobalamin versus a methylcobalamin, the difference is life and death. It's literally life and death. If you get folic acid versus folate, the difference is life and death. Don't compromise on these things. It's literally good for you versus bad for you. So we want to get the good for you versions, not the cheap versions that make you sick, right? So make sure you're getting the right ones. Yeah, let's keep going. Next one, digestion and detox. Healthy digestive system, you are what you eat. Well, if you eat it and it doesn't get digested and absorbed, it's not there. And then if you eat it and it's toxic, you're not able to flush it out. We need that, right? All right. Right. So big ones here. So this one here, there was a fancy chart that went with this. I couldn't understand the chart, so I wasn't going to show it to you guys. But basically, the coolest thing here, so there's a couple of things. So anti-SIBO, great. It helps protect against small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. That's great. That's a good thing. Glyphosate. How many of us are exposed to glyphosate on a daily basis? Every single one of us. Even if we're not spraying it on our own foods, it's just in the air, it's on everything. You walk in the grocery store, especially in Nebraska, right? Cornfields galore, what are they spraying on everything? It's glyphosate. You know, if you have weeds in your yard, what are you spraying on it? You're spraying glyphosate, unless you know the Dawn dish soap trick, right? Yeah, we can get that later. But basically, this protects against glyphosate breaking down the digestive system. really cool. So that intestinal lining is protected by B cells. That's cool. Activates within 45 minutes. S. boulardii, really important for protecting the microbiome during antibiotic use. If you're taking antibiotics at all, you need this in there to protect against that. Not that I recommend it. My wife asked me when should she give me antibiotics if I'm passed out and can't answer myself. I'm like, I guess if I'm going to die, like that's the only time I want to take it because otherwise it's destroying the gut so badly. So, and then it helps with producing lactic acid. Good use there. And then this last one. Okay, so microplastics, are they an issue? Yeah, where are they in? Everything. Yeah, to the point where each of us is consuming an average of about a credit card size of microplastics every 2 weeks. Most of it comes from single-use plastics. So what's a single-use plastic? Bottled water. Why? Because you're throwing it away, right? What else would you find in a grocery store that single-use plastic? You don't even have to buy it.
It can use any food, lotion, plastic.
Yeah, soft plastics for sure. You don't even have to buy it. They give it to you for free when you take your groceries. Plastic bags, not because it's absorbing into your skin, because what do you do with that bag when you're done with it? You throw it in the trash, it goes to the landfill, and then the rain hits it, and those microplastics absorb into this wonderful aquifer we have down here. And guess whose water filtration system isn't designed to deal with microplastics? Yours, mine, and ours. City of Lincoln doesn't deal with that whatsoever. And so every time you take a bath, every time you take a shower, every time you take a drink from the faucet, you're getting microplastics. Guess what eats microplastics? Cool, right? Yeah, this guy, he actually eats microplastics. So if it's in your system, it'll actually help. Yeah, good stuff, good stuff. So this is the Pure Energy Bundle, also known as the Foundational 3. This is what I'm going to be recommending people start with before they buy anything else. And yes, it is cheaper to get this than to buy everything. In fact, to get all of this, to get each individual ingredient, go on Amazon, shop for the cheapest thing, you're spending upwards of $600 for all of that. And you're not getting the quality, you're not getting the regenerative, organic, grass-fed sources of all these things. And so what we've done through negotiating with these companies that have all that, we've been able to lower that price to about $200 for all 3 bottles, if you need all 3 bottles. So tonight, if you want to get those, we're giving you guys 20% off if you get all 3, and then that 20% goes to anything else that you want. So this is a good opportunity, right? Get as many of these as you can. If you want to get just one, we'll give you 20% off of that. But to get 20% off of anything else, you're definitely wanting to get all 3. What's the most important one? Well, case by case, I would say just generally as a rule of thumb, most of you are probably needing this one first and foremost. Then I would jump to gut health, right? And this one too, I was thinking about it. You guys remember when we had the Max GI supplement? This is a great replacement for that supplement. It's like a boosted version of that supplement. So that's a great place to go. But then this one is awesome as well. So it really depends on what you're dealing with, what your health challenges are. But really, most of us need all 3. Me and the staff, Cheryl, April, and myself, we've been taking these for about 2 weeks now. Yep. And I haven't noticed a big difference, but I also didn't have a lot of complaints. So it's like, yeah, no, I still feel good. So that's great. But as far as like a probiotic, this is better than the probiotic that we sell you with the GI, the gut reset protocol. It's that. So really, so yes, correct.
How many capsules?
Total between the 3 of them, it's 9. 9 total capsules. Yep. Then you take it 3 at a time. Yep. 3 with breakfast, 3 with lunch, 3 with dinner. So, all right. So now I want to dive into peptides real quick. So who's heard of Ozempic? Who's heard of Wegovy? Who's heard of Mounjaro? Anybody tempted to take it? No, good. So we've got some here. Or not really. Yeah. So I had a pen. So I wanted to explain how peptides work, because peptides are not new. Peptides are older than us. Peptides are in proteins, they're in nature, they're everywhere. They're literally doing stuff all the time. And there's a specific peptide that science has really dove into in the last couple of years called GLP-1. What does that stand for? It's glucagon-like peptide. It's the first type of this. And so, about 20 years ago, these things started to develop. I don't remember what the first one was called. But they figured out that if they created a synthetic version of GLP-1, that it would trick your body into thinking it had more GLP-1. It would do the things that GLP-1 does. Well, what does GLP-1 do in the stomach? A lot of things, but specifically, let's say we have these red triangles here. They go into these Y-shaped receptors, and if you get enough of them, your body starts to say, I'm full. I don't need to eat. So you guys you're making the connections. I see it on your faces. If I feel like I don't need to eat, but I'm not actually full, that means I'm getting less calories, so I start losing weight, right? Well, if it's natural, that's true, right? And that's why high protein diets work so well. Because when you eat a high protein diet, you get a lot of GLP-1 naturally. You feel full with less calories. However, if you go sticking a synthetic version of that in there, yes, you feel full without the calories. However, the GLP-1 agonist drugs are some of the only medications on the market. No, I shouldn't say some of them because there's way too many. But they have black box warning. What's the black box warning? Causes death as a side effect. They saw death in the clinical trials. Not everybody, obviously, or else they wouldn't sell it, right? But it was one of the side effects. What are some of the other ones? Thyroid cancer, pancreatic cancer, gastroparesis, literally paralyzing the stomach. And they're deriving this from Gila monster. So not even a food source. They're not even just breaking down protein into like the peptides that form the amino acid chain that make up the protein. No, they're taking it from the Gila monster venom, and then they make whatever it is. And so then you have all these green things floating around, and they're in there, and they think that it's just doing this good thing, and people are losing 20, 30, 40 pounds. Part of the problem is 40% of your weight loss is muscle. 30% of your weight loss is water. Only 30% of that is fat. What's the main thing we want to lose when we're doing that stuff? We want to lose body fat. And in fact, to get your metabolism healthy, we need to focus on getting rid of that. And so that's where, about a year ago when I was really hearing about this stuff, I learned that my sister was taking this. Not the one that you guys know, but a different sister. And it just, it broke my heart. And I knew I had to talk to her. And, I went and I sat down with her, and it did exactly to her what it did to everybody else I talked to that stage. I tried to pull away, take away, steal her wonder drug. Because that wonder drug had caused her to lose over 50 pounds. The loss of weight made her feel so much better about herself. She wasn't dealing with as much anxiety or depression. And I told her it was bad. I told her it was evil. So who was the villain? Was it the drug that's killing her slowly? No, it's her big brother. Right? And I was doing this to patients too. I was saying, please, don't. I don't want you to be a part of a lawsuit where your family and friends are suing these companies 10 years ago because now we find out that so many people died from thyroid cancer, so many people died from pancreatic cancer, had all these other health conditions that were disabling from gastroparesis. This is the path that it's on. And so instead of doing that, we're going to do the opposite. I'm going to provide you with a healthier alternative. Right? So these are not drugs. These are literally from food sources. So the number one thing here is lean. So this is nature. So this is what happens if you break down food sources for the peptides. And so this is clinically formulated not to do what Ozempic does, but to focus on the fat cells. Yes, it makes you feel full, but it does it with food. And I'll tell you right now, I feel full. I don't even remember if I took 2 of these this morning, but I've taken it long enough. I'm on about a month and a half of these. And pretty much every single evening when I go to have supper, I don't want 2 platefuls, which was my average. 2 platefuls or whatever my wife made or whatever I picked up from the store, whatever I had a chance to. I just want like a smaller person size, right? But I don't have the other side effects with it. And what I'm losing is not body weight, I'm losing body fat. So all these things, yes, this is true. It's focused on that. Reduces cravings, balances hunger hormones. This is really good. So you could just do this, you would get a great response to that. However, we also have fit. So most of us also need to gain some muscle mass, right? We're getting too weak. And one of the biggest predictors of longevity is actually grip strength, right? If you need to hand that jar to somebody else to open, that's a bad sign for your mortality. And so the fit, is peptides that help that muscle mass. So pretty cool. And then on top of that, we have, who's jumping off, hydrated. So we also don't want you losing water weight to lose weight. We want you losing body fat. We want you maintaining water weight. We want you to maintain muscle weight. And so that's where the hydrated. And on top of that, some of you guys are lagging throughout the day. And we've got the energized.
I'll tell you though, that fit, I give half a packet to my daughter in the morning because she's dragging for school.
Yep.
She's like, I can't make any of my tests. I give her half a packet because it's a really lot of energy. And she does great. And
Yep.
I can still do half and still make it through the day. I took a full one this morning, no, half one this morning. And I'll tell you, it really goes. Now on that fit, don't take it after 1 o'clock because I took mine yesterday, Saturday
Oh,
at
you won't
1,
sleep.
and I was wide awake
Yeah.
until almost midnight because
Yeah.
it just gave that much
I
energy.
believe both the fit and the energized.
The fit,
have caffeine.
the fit does. The energizes like really potent. So it's like
Yeah.
one of those days that you're like, oh my gosh, I have a full day and
Yeah.
I need to be up
This is
till
not one that
10.
you need to take every day all the time.
No.
For energy, this is just on
Yes. And
This
it
one-
it's raspberry, so it does have like a sourish taste, just giving you a heads up.
So on your order forms here, there's a couple different ways to get these. So I put together the ones that are focused on fat types. So the hydrate, the fit, and the lean. So you can go in and you can order the energized as well. Just write that in. If you want that one too. But for anybody that wants to sample them tonight, we're going to cut open a packet. We're going to give you a small amount and you can taste it. The fit, if anybody ever drink Tang, yeah, it tastes just like Tang.
It does.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's very citrusy. Tastes good. This is
This is
not.
not.
This uses stevia, so it's low on the glycemic index. The lean we can't give you a sample of because they're capsules, of course. And you're not going to see a difference after just 1 or 2. You'd have to take it consistent. I think after about a week is when I noticed feeling more full and not having as many cravings with it. But the hydrated, that's a grapefruit flavor. And it's really good. I drank one in the afternoon just to make up from the caffeine that dehydrated me earlier. Yeah, and then the energized, I actually haven't tried. It's raspberry flavor, but I wouldn't take it tonight.
No.
This has the most.
And I wouldn't take
caffeine
the
for sure.
fit tonight either. I'd honestly, if you can offer it another day during the morning or something.
Yeah, for sure. You guys can come sample them. But if you know that you need to lose some body fat and just the fitness alone and just the diet alone has plateaued, this is a great way to get over that without poisoning yourself. So the price on there is for 1 month. Yeah, so each box is 1 month supply. There is a discount if you get subscribed and save. So for that bundle, specifically lean, fit, and hydrated, you would want that subscribe and save until you hit your fat loss goals. Now, how do we get there? So this is where knowing your numbers comes in. So your weight for your height leads to your BMI. Waist measurement is actually much better than BMI. A body fat percentage. This is where we should be looking. So men, we want about 15 to 20% body fat, healthy range. Women, we want about 20 to 25%. So we don't want to drop our body fat percentage below that. My mom was just talking to me about her weight loss journey, and she's taking her body fat percentage, and she was saying she was down to 30%. I was like, that's great, because she was up at about 50% when she started. She's lost over 100 pounds in the last year. Just incredible stuff. And that's someone that has low thyroid function too. And she's not using peptides at all, but she's doing the diet stuff. She's doing the exercise stuff. She's coming off of long COVID too. So really come a long way. But she's measuring her body fat. And she's like, yeah, I want to get down to about 140 pounds. I want to look really good. I said, Mom, do not focus on your weight. Do not focus on your weight. Weight is an awful number of metabolic health. Body fat percentage is a wonderful measure of that. So go someplace that you can measure that, or you can get a really cheap scale that has electrical sensors on the plates. You can stand on it and measure your body fat percentage in about 30 seconds. To get one of those, you can probably go to Walmart. Oh, a lot of gyms will have a body fat percentage analysis. Some of them it costs money. Yeah, you have a lot of places. So look at that. And then you'll also, if you go to one of those places, you'll get your lean body mass, so that muscle breakdown. And then if you can test your fasting blood glucose, you want that, I believe, below 5.4. Fasting, or your A1C about 5. Yeah, sorry, not fasting blood glucose. That should be below 100 for sure. If you get over 100, now you're pre-diabetic. If you go above 120, now you're diabetic. So yeah, getting those numbers. A1C is better though, because it's measuring the last 3 months as opposed to just what you did over the last 3 days. Blood sugar is like that. So it really is all about habits. We covered these in depth last time, so let me just fly through these real quick. So movement habits that we need to create, right? So I don't just want to sell you pills, right? This is about lifestyle. Ultimately, we're going to get beyond a lot of these pills, right? Especially when we start growing our own gardens, raising our own cattle. So engage in moderate intensity movement for at least 150 minutes a week. That's not exercise, that's movement. Your job can do some of that, but we want moderate intensity. That means sweating and losing our breath, that level. Resistance training at least 3 times a week. Strength is important for longevity. Take 7,000 or more steps a day. That's where we see the numbers start to change. It doesn't always mean going on a walk, but get those 7,000 steps, even if it's in your own house. Get your regularly scheduled adjustments. If your joints aren't moving, your brain's not doing its thing. If you lose that mobility in your spine, your brain stops functioning well. Perform your specific spinal rehabilitation. It's not just about adjustments, is it? It's mix, fix, set. You gotta get those 3 together. Number 2, sleep habits. We want 7 to 8, if you're a female, 8 to 9 hours of sleep a night. If you're not getting there, your metabolic health is off. We got to get sunshine as part of that. We'll get there in a second. Consistent sleep with regular bedtime, same bedtime every night, and wake up time, same wake up time every single night. Meal timing habits. Pick an eating window. I can tell you intermittent fasting is better for you, but I can't tell you what eating window is best. Some people need to do 12-12, 12 hours on, 12 hours off. Some people need to do 16-8. Some people need to do 1 meal a day. I can't tell you what's best for you. You have to figure it out on your own. Eat Max Living Advanced Plan. The Advanced Plan. Why the Advanced Plan? So that you can grow keto, that you can break down ketones. You get metabolically healthy. Practice mindful eating. Don't just stuff in your mouth whatever's in front of your face. It's not the seafood diet, right? It's a joke. Right? It's knowing what's in front of you, what it's doing for you, or what it's doing against you, and making a plan, right? So make that plan. Life habits, and this is one that we all struggle with, especially coming out of winter. We're supposed to wake up with the sun and go to bed about 2 hours after the sun goes down. That, for metabolic health, that's required. If you work the night shift, sorry, you're not metabolically healthy. There's nothing to replace the sun. If you don't do that, you are going to start breaking down. We're designed to be in the sun. Now, do you want to go out there all day and get, sunburned? No. Start with about 15 minutes of exposure. And then as you build a tan, go out a little longer. As you build a tan, go out a little longer. Do not block the sun, with sunscreen. We want to let that sun hit our skin and let that do it. Now, if you're going for more than 15 minutes and you have to be out there for more than 15 minutes, block the sun, right? Because your skin's not used to it yet. I know some of your complexion, my complexion even right now after being inside all winter, I would fry. In fact, if I was outside as much as I wanted to be today, I would have fried. So we have to slowly build up to that and get used to it. Then we want to minimize nighttime blue light exposure. If we keep getting blue light in our eyes, TV, computer, cell phone, after the sun goes down, now we're telling our brain that the sun's still up. And we're delaying those hormones from being able to do the normal thing. Temperature habits. Guess what's the worst thing you can do when it's cold outside? Stay inside and keep warm. What's the worst thing you can do with your thermostat? Keep it set at the same temperature all year long. We need to challenge our systems to be able to cool down and heat up. Cold exposure is good for you. Heat exposure is good for you. Challenge your bodies. When you don't challenge it, your body says, oh, I don't need this. Let's put our energy somewhere else. And it stops working. And if you don't sweat, what happens to all those toxins? Specifically, glyphosate only comes out through sweat. If you are not sweating, you're not getting glyphosate out. So it doesn't matter how much, Saccharomyces boulardii you're taking. You gotta sweat. So challenge yourself. So get that hot exposure, sauna, cold exposure, cold shower, or when it's cold outside, step outside, play in the cold a little bit. I don't like it as much as you do, but it's good for you. Yes.
Do the Nebraska challenge.
Yes. Don't go jump in the lake. Guys, water habits. We need sufficient clean water. Sufficient meaning half your body weight in ounces. So if I'm 200 pounds, 100 ounces. 100 pounds, 50 ounces. So do the math for yourself, figure out where you need to be. In clean water, meaning ideally not tap water that has all those microplastics and other things in it. And then don't drink tap water or from plastic containers. Environmental habits. Let's get our personal products, cleaners, etc. at home cleaned up. We need those to be right. Get nature exposure. A lot of stuff can just be fixed by going out in nature. That sunlight thing I was talking about, are you going to get it inside? No, because all these windows have UVA and UVB protection on it. You can't get it in your car. You have to actually go outside. You have to get outside from behind the glass. So the 30-day challenge, advanced plan meals only. This is your goal. Only eat advanced plan. No chocolate cake, no ice cream, no bread. Your fruits are just the low glycemic fruits. Your vegetables are just the low glycemic vegetables. Intermittent fasting. You pick your window. I'm not the boss of you, but pick a window, be disciplined, be consistent. Break fast with a protein smoothie and supplements, or if you don't want a protein smoothie, eggs and sausage. Something that's high protein. Chicken sausage, turkey sausage. I have a thing about pork. If you like parasites, eat lots of pork. They like you too. 20 minutes of exercise a day. Now, exercise meaning moderate intensity, right? So we're losing our breath and we're causing ourselves to sweat. 7,000 steps a day. And again, that doesn't have to be from the exercise, but the exercise counts. So if you're walking and making yourself sweat and lose your breath, that counts. Follow your chiropractic and home care recommendations every single day. Maybe not get adjusted every single day, but follow your recommendations. If you're at once a week, don't miss a week. If you're supposed to be doing something twice a day for your exercises, do them twice a day for your exercises. I want you to read. Reading is good for your brain. And audiobooks do count because they improve your language. Stay hydrated. Half your body weight in ounces of water a day. 45 minutes per week in the sauna. That's my challenge to you guys. Start challenging that temperature up. Not 45 minutes all at once. 15 minutes is sufficient. And then get a fixed bedtime and wake up time, ideally with the sun. Right, Dennis? Yeah. All right, so let's address this. I feel good, so I must be healthy. No, what is health? Is health a state of feeling good? No, does anybody define health as feeling good other than Americans? No, and Americans get everything right, so we must be right. What is health? Health is a state of 100% optimal function in your ability, metabolically, from a cancer perspective, from a cardiovascular perspective, from an autoimmune perspective. We need that 100% function in the body. Unfortunately, your symptoms don't show up until, in the case of heart disease, down here. All right, first symptom of heart disease is what? Heart attack, 63% of the time. What's your survival rate in the United States? Best survival rate in the world for heart attacks, 50%. Literally a coin flip if you wait until you feel that. So where should we keep our function? As close to it as we can. What about cancer? How far down this scale are we until we hit the first symptom of cancer? Usually 6 to 8 weeks. And that's how people get that cancer diagnosis. They were perfectly healthy until they weren't. Except they weren't perfectly healthy. Healthy body can't grow cancer cells, right? By definition. So we want to focus on that function. Where does function come from? Function comes from the nervous system. Subluxation is what interferes. Subluxation is anything that interferes with expression of the nerves. Now, the most common thing is the spine. The spine's job is to surround and protect that. But when that gets shifted out of position, this is why adjustments are so important. When that gets shifted out of position, 2 millimeters or 2 degrees, and gets stuck, the signals going through those nerves decrease by 60%. Is there any way that a heart, lungs, digestive system, anything can function at 100% when that's decreased by 60%? It's physically impossible. And so we need to make sure that there's no subluxation in the spine. How do we do that? Number one, regular nerve scans. Make sure that those nervous system signals are firing appropriately. And when they're not, those regular x-rays to make sure that the spine is achieving a better structure. If it's achieving a worse structure, we need to do something different, right? And that's, many of you this year have gotten brand new exercises because I learned about new exercises, and you got to do these exercises to make sure that your spine is strong enough to be able to handle the stresses. So what are some warning signs of subluxation? Headaches, long-term subluxation leads to headaches. It's another one. We'll just work our way down. Headaches, joint pain. It's in the neck. It's called neck pain. Right. Yep. Inflammation. Yep. Taking all this stuff. Don't pick on yourself so much.
What's that number?
Yeah. So really, any symptom can be a sign of subluxation, and we don't know if it's not until we actually test. This should be the first thing that medical doctors check is the health of the nervous system. But did they ever check it? No, the only time they check the nervous system is when there's a obvious neurologically degenerative condition. Oh, my hand went numb. It's been numb for the last 5 weeks. Oh, well, blood flow looks good. Temperature is fine. We should check the nerves. Oh, yeah, you've got carpal tunnel. How long do you have to have a misalignment in your hand to cause carpal tunnel? Guess what? You could have it completely obstructed in your hand and not feel a difference. Second, you get 2 spots, one in your neck and one in your hand. Now you've got carpal tunnel. That's when they check it, is when it's so obvious that it is that they couldn't not be. And so we need to make sure that we're doing those tests. So if you don't have an appointment scheduled. So action steps. What are our action steps? Number 1, the 30-day challenge. We should be doing these. This is how I grew the habits that I have, is by doing these challenges once every couple months. Do this. Challenge yourself to do this, right? And if you need a printout of this, we'll give you a printout of this. We had them all over the office for the first workshop, but we can give it to you again. Do this challenge. Secondly, do you know everything yet? No, me neither. So what do I need to keep doing? Learning, reading, and coming to these classes. So the next one is actually going to be a ladies only event in April. Or no. Sorry, I misspoke. Detox first, and then ladies only. So I was going to do a lot more on detox tonight because it really does impact mental health dramatically. But we're doing a whole class on it. That's our next class, is on detoxification and how to have healthy detoxification in our bodies. So that one's going to be about 4 weeks. Is that
The
what we're-
detox is April 7th.
April 7th. So yeah, about 4 weeks from today, we'll be doing that here in the office. So if you're ready for the next step in metabolic health in a month from now, definitely make sure you're here for that. So April 7th, 6:15 p.m. That'll be another Monday night as well. Now, a lot of you are like, oh my
Before you
goodness.
go on,
Yeah.
April 19th is going to be our women's only.
Yeah.
We're having a lady that come in and she's going to do what is called a sound bath.
Mhm.
If you've never heard of it or done one, I would look it up. It's amazing. So it will start at 11. We'll give you more information as it comes, but it's going to be kind of like a nighttime thing. So I encourage pajamas. We're going to buy everybody like sleep masks, and it will be super fun. And if you've never done a sound bath, you need to come. Very relaxing for the body.
Sounds better. Yes. It's very relaxing.
Dr. Jake did one,
I did
like a miniature.
Yeah, it's like a massage for your ears a little bit. Not like the inner ears, which kind of gets the whole body that way. It's a different way of accessing the nervous system. And it's a lot of fun. You guys will get to pamper yourself a whole lot more than just that.
Yes.
So some of you guys are like, I need to get this stuff. So obviously 20% off all supplements with the purchase of the bundle. And we're going to throw in tonight, if you're getting the bundle, you have to get the whole bundle. You're going to get a free infrared sauna session, and you're gonna get a free STEM web session. So if you already paid for STEM web, guess what? You got one added on just for getting it. And this is actually the most important thing I would recommend for any of you, because I know none of you are currently taking it, unless I'm talking to Cheryl and April, unless you snuck onto the website without me knowing about it. So these are the most important things I can recommend for you right now, no matter who you are. Probably starting with this one, then that one, although we can chat about if that's actually true in your specific situation. If you're taking the daily essentials, do you need to continue them with this? Probably not. There's a lot of overlap there. Yeah, really. There's a lot of overlap, especially if you're taking all three. That's why, the price tag, yes, it's $200, but it's replacing the daily essentials. It's replacing the curcumin. It's replacing ashwagandha. I mean, all the things that are in there, all the individual stuff. Yeah, B12, the omega is not in there. So that's like the one thing that you're missing out on. But that's, you may want to go.
You
Probiotics
guys
are all
want
in
to know
there.
what it replaces.
Digestive
I
enzymes.
have like-
We have a handout for that.
I can make
So,
everybody a
Yeah,
copy.
yeah, we can make a copy for everybody if you want to see that. But yeah, so this is probably the most important thing. So yeah, get that, get some freebies with it. So yes, this would be a $600 value plus 150 plus 20. So now we're talking about 70, 780, $850. This, no, I take them all at once. I'll chug them. Yeah, but with food. Yeah, you want to have it with food. So if you're only having one meal a day, definitely take it with that meal. If you're having 3 meals a day, you can split it up. One of each, and then one of each. If you're having 2, split it in half, however you want to do it. So it doesn't really matter with that. But these are replacing a lot of stuff that you guys definitely need. We can talk about which one's most important. Now, if you're not getting that, and you're not getting the free infrareds on it, or you are getting the free infrareds on it and you want more, because we're not done with cold yet, unfortunately. Sorry to break it. Right. So getting that heat challenge isn't going to be easy outside for a little while yet. So tonight only, you're getting 50% off of our normal infrared sauna pricing. So if you don't already have that, if you want to just buy sessions by the individual, they're $10 for implementing you by tonight. So 2 would be 20, 3 would be 30, 40. If you want 4 sessions, it's actually just $25. We'll give you a 4 session bundle for $25. If you want unlimited sessions until the next workshop, which is going to offer the discount again, then it's not $100, it's $50. You can come in 6 days a week for that if you want. Do 5 minutes at a time. Do 10 minutes at a time. Do an hour at a time. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And now we have 2, so we can accommodate more of you. So if you haven't gotten a chance to try the tall one behind the stem wave sign, that's another treat. That'll really make you sweat. So how do you order? So unfortunately, the peptides I can't carry. There's no profit margin for me to actually order them in, put them on my shelf, and then sell them to you. So the way that I can actually make money off of this is just by helping you guys get your own account. So what we'll do is on the back of that sheet, we'll need to know which ones that you want. I know some of you have already gotten these. So circle the package that you want, indicate whether or not you want subscribe and save or you just want 1 month supply of it. There's I believe it's about a 10% discount for a subscribe and save. And then go down and put all of this in here so we can just type it into the website. I know we have your credit card on file, but we don't have your full credit card on file. So we're gonna actually need you to write it all out.
Hey, I think they can do that.
You can go to Make Wellness.
As long as we have the
Yeah.
first, you have, but you'll have to go in to the website and add that in. So if it
Well-
helps you for us to do it, we can do it.
Yeah, we'll definitely do it for you. I know a lot of you guys have websites. It's not the funnest activity in the world. So if you fill that out, after we're done putting in, we'll shred the paper so nobody gets that information. Yeah, and then the other supplements, we do have enough for several of you to get that, or to get the bundle, right? The Pure Energy bundle, but we don't have enough for everybody to get multiple tonight. I mean, some of you it's like, I need some for my wife, or I need some for my son, or whatever. So we're gonna need you to pre-order. Some of you are gonna need to pre-order. So fill out both sides with however many you want, so that we can order the right amount. Okay? Yes.
You said Getting up with the sun and going.
Yeah.
The doctor, what would the hours be?
So it's about 2 hours after the
2
sun.
hours before?
No, wake up with the sun.
Wake up.
And ideally, you're going to get outside, you're going to get the natural sun rays as you're getting up. That should be like the first thing that you do. And then the last thing that you should do, as the sun's going down, you should also get those sun rays hitting your eyes without any windows between you, but then go to bed about 2 hours later. The setting of the sun should start bedtime, even if it's not sleep time. 2 hours later, you should actually get sleep. Good question. Yeah, more questions. Yes.
You said something about not, you can't squeeze something out of a carrot, or you're not saying carrots are bad.
No, I'm not saying carrots are bad. I'm saying carrot oil. It's probably not the
I've
best
never
thing
heard
for
of
you. Vegetable oil is really what I'm picking on there.
And then
Yeah.
you explained
Yeah.
the ketone.
Ketones. Yeah, so ketones are,
In and out.
it's the energy source that you would break down from fat, as opposed to carbohydrates being the energy source that you break down from sugar.
Oh.
Right, it's just the difference there. Your body turns it into ATP. So ketones, the ketogenic diet is a diet where your body makes its own ketones.
While I have you, sometimes the powder, is that okay? Like at the health food store, those big containers.
It's tough to say. There's a lot of new peptide products out there.
Okay.
I just went and found the best ones. So I can't say one way or the
The
other.
GL.
The GLP-1 is the one that we're looking at in the lean specifically. That's for making you feel full and then dressing for
That was in
the drug.
the and that is actually.
Yeah, so that's this one. That's for body fat.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes.
All three of those.
The only thing you'd need that's not in there is the omega. Yes. That's covering a lot of what the does, and then some. So, here, let me see your sheet. So we can kind of go through, and I'll read these off so everybody can see this. So your inflammation and immune support, specifically the supplements that you don't have to buy separately that we do carry. You don't have to buy collagen when you're taking this one. You don't have to buy curcumin when you take this one. You don't have to buy curcumin plus nerve support, which is a different one. You don't have to buy joint health. You don't have to buy vitamin A, and you don't have to buy vitamin D3. So there's more in there, but that would replace the multivitamin portion of that. Yeah, yep, absolutely. So digestion and detox, that's replacing the detox system. It's not actually replacing the detox, but it's doing what the detox system does. It's taking care of GI replenish. It's also taking care of GI replace. It's taking the place of max GI. And it's taking the place of microbiome support. So that's a big chunk of those. And then cellular health and longevity. That's the adrenal balance. That's the B complex. So if you get cell health, that's B complex. Right? Cell repair. That's another supplement. That's one that I've recommended for people with lots of inflammation before. CoQ10 with lipoic acid, that's another supplement I've recommended for people. Max Fit, metabolic burn, and acetylcysteine is in this one as well. Vitamin B12, of course, that would be the B complex. And then zinc plus zinc is also in this one too. So there's a lot of good things that you can.
Well, if you still got a lot of this stuff,
If you still have a lot of that stuff, finish it.
do they get wrong with it?
Yeah. Oh, no. Finish what you have.
Oh,
Yeah, don't waste what you have. I'm not saying go throw your bills away.
no.
What I've sold you in the past is still good.
You double up on it?
I wouldn't recommend it unless you are absolutely know you're deficient. Yeah, you're welcome, Joe. So yeah, definitely look at those.
We have to add on this stuff.
I'm not sure which one would have magnesium. I would check the inflammation specific. We got some bottles over there that I'm learning with you guys with these. I'm like, oh, it's brand new. It's so cool. But yeah. More questions? Yes. So no, you don't need the multivitamin. Yeah, exactly. I believe that was the cell health one. Yeah, lots of those. Yes, ma'am.
Would that help my feet? Neuropathy?
Yep. Now we need to do a lot more than that. Yeah, safety, good stuff. Yeah, especially the cellular health. That might be where you want to start. That'd be good. The shock wave or the stem wave would also help. I know, but it helps with it. Yep. All right, I'm gonna turn it off. Let me know if you have more questions. Wellness Warrior update. If you haven't been to a workshop before, we did change the way we do Wellness Warrior. Wellness Warrior. Punches no longer equal percentages off. Punches give you opportunities to win prizes. So every 5 punches you get you get to spin the wheel and win a new prize. Which may be a percentage off. It might be a free adjustment. It might be a free stem wave session. It might be a free infrared sauna session. Lots of good stuff. Good.
My newest great niece, she's oh, and she's not even walking yet. It's like